It's a great pleasure for me to be here to participate in the Aontas Conference on Community Education. I have been active in community education for over 25 years now, so I think I have some sense from that experience and also reflection in the arena to know of what an important time it is for community education, not just because of the establishment of the SOLAS, the new further education and training agency that the government is establishing, although I think it's great to have the conference now because that's so timely, but I think it's even more timely in light of the fact that we have just recently inaugurated a new president, President Michael D. Higgins. And really the theme of my paper is a contribution to the conference this afternoon, has to do with many of the things that he was speaking about in his inaugural speech. And the title of what I want to offer people is just a few words that he said, where he says that every age, after all, has to have its own Ashling. And I think that gives a wonderful sense of us to reflect on the future of community education. And many of the things that President Higgins spoke about in that inaugural speech reflects the values and the principles, the concerns that have laid under the origins and the contemporary manifestations of community education for the last number of years. So I really think he's offering a presidential indication and confirmation of the importance of the sustainability and the future of community education. However, it's not just our president, it's also our Taoiseach, who also spoke on that momentous occasion, where he too emphasized the importance of community in order to provide the foundation for our national recovery. So I think that what we have is our two primary political leaders suggesting to us that, again, all of the values that have been part of community education over the last number of years are what we need now in order to renew our country. So that's one of the things I'm going to be speaking about. I do think, though, it is important to be attentive to some of the government's, I suppose, concerns and policy direction in terms of the establishment of a new agency called SOLAS. And again, as many of the participants and people throughout the country who are active in community education are aware, that some of the government's intent with this new agency is to ensure that the needs of the learners are aligned with the future needs of what's going on within the future job market and also enterprise. And I think this is a positive development for community education for a number of reasons. But first of all, I think it's positive because, again, as we all know, the arenas or the geographic regions often where community education operates, we are working with people who represent a larger proportion of the unemployed or the long-term unemployed. And it is we who, in the various programs and courses, etc., over the years that have developed and demonstrated, have developed ways of working with the culture, I suppose, effectively of the people who come from those communities to enable them to return to education, and also not just in returning to, so be able to bring them back in. We know how to go and reach out and get them started on the path. But not just that. And again, this maybe just reflects my experience, but I've been all over the country over the years with other community education actors, that if you're working in those contexts where communities are vibrant and are, I suppose, challenging themselves in order to become more resilient, to move beyond some of the conditions of disadvantage that they've been born into, that of course they're looking for economic prosperity for their local communities. Of course they are. And so certainly central to any of the kind of community education I've ever practiced is that we've looked for ways to develop training or the kinds of skills in order to bring people into the job market and also to become entrepreneurs and local entrepreneurs themselves. So again, I think it's particularly community education settings and groups who would have that extra edge, I suppose, to find ways to ensure that the best kind of training in order that brings us into the needs of the current and future job market will be able to take place. But I suppose the final, I'm going to finish my contribution with a couple of recommendations to the community sector itself. And one of those one of those recommendations will be to, acknowledging the fact that they will require some strategic support in order to build where they've come from and to get them ready, I think, to meet the challenges of some of the new focus of government policy in terms of education. But that it's important for them, for community education, to seek that in a strategic manner, and with the confidence, I think, again, that we do now have both a presidential and a political imperative in terms of the effectiveness and the importance of community education.